He told me to pack my things right there in the hallway, his voice hard and final, the kind of final a man learns after burying his wife, and I almost did, until his little boy lifted his face and whispered, "Please don't send her," and his brother tugged his sleeve and said, "She makes it warm." That was the first sound those twins had made in 37 days, yeah. That happened, and right then the whole house seemed to hold its breath. My name is Maya Brooks, 5 days into a trial housekeeping job at a glass and cedar place above Harbor Point, where the wind never shuts up and money buys quiet. The way people buy locks, Graham Pierce owned it. Billionaire, disciplined, allergic to softness, and his boys, Leo and Theo, small for 5, watched everything like witnesses who had run out of words. Their mom, Elena, had died in the spring, and grief had wrapped the place in plastic you couldn't see, but you could feel, you know what I mean. The kind of air that tells you don't touch, don't ask, don't feel. That afternoon, I was kneeling with an armful of pajamas the boys had decorated with glue and paper, stars, both of them welded to me like seatbelts. I was humming the tune my mother used when bills piled up and neighbors fought through the wall. Graham came home early, shoes hitting marble like a gavel, saw us on the floor in his museum hallway, and snapped Miss Brooks, "What is this? What did I say about boundaries?" "You're done, pack your things 1 hour," he didn't shout. He just ended me and I stood slow, a twin still glued to my leg, and I didn't cry because crying in the blast zone teaches the wrong lesson. I just looked at him like you look at a storm you can't outrun. Then Leo said those words, "Please don't send her." And Theo added, "She makes it warm." And you could see Graham do the math. Control times, pain minus surprise. Something cracked, not broken, but cracked. He turned away and didn't slam a door in that house. That was a miracle on training wheels. I went upstairs and folded my uniform into a brave square, told myself to leave. With dignity, sat on the bed, hearing my heart stomp, and a soft knock came. Theo. Hair sticking up like a dandelion holding a crayon drawing, with 3 stick people and a yellow dog that did not exist, 2 boys, 1 woman, hands touching. He pressed it into my palm and walked off like he'd signed a contract, so I stayed the night. Not because I had permission, but because sometimes obedience looks like waiting. Next morning I made pancakes. Not as a stunt, just because hunger is holy in small bodies, the batter hissed. Bubbles popped, Leo giggled. Theo made a shocked face about syrup like kids do. Graham stood in the doorway with his tie perfect, and his eyes not watched his sons, like a tourist in a country he didn't remember visiting. "Miss Brooks, we need to talk," he said. And in his study, the ocean was framed like art, and everything else was leather and discipline. You were hired to clean, not to counsel, not to replace a mother. The schedule is approved by a child psychiatrist. "The boys need structure," he said. And I said, "Sir, in that structure, they stopped speaking." He hated that sentence. Truth feels like betrayal. When you've married your plan. "Don't make promises you can't keep," he said. And I told him I wouldn't promise anything. I'd just keep showing up, kids. Know the difference? He looked for the trap door, and there wasn't one. The house started handing me keys I didn't ask for in the West Wing, linen closet. I found a shoebox with Elena written in blue ink. Inside were kids' drawings and a little silver voice recorder, and at the bottom a sealed envelope. For Graham, open when the house forgets how to laugh. I didn't read it. It wasn't mine. I carried the box to the sitting room where dust turned to gold in the late light. And when he appeared in the doorway, I held the box out like a borrowed heart. He knelt, his hand hovered over the envelope and fell. "I can't," he said, like the words weighed 10 pounds each. "Then start with the small thing," I told him, not the letter. A recording that night, we played the first tape. Elena's voice filled the kitchen, soft and steady. "If you forget how to be silly, do 10 jumping jacks and shout pizza." She laughed on the word, and the boys did too. Real laughs, and Graham held the counter like a railing on a moving ship, and the house finally inhaled. The midpoint of my life showed up in a storm. Thunder broke the sky like a dropped plate. Rain punched the windows. I woke before the first boom because panic has a smell, walked barefoot to the twins' room. Leo sat up tight and ready. Theo was folded into himself, fists against his mouth, eyes far away. Panic is its own weather system. I knelt. Hey, buddy, it's just sky noise. I'm here, he didn't blink. I laid a blanket across his lap so he could feel weight and waited. Graham rushed in, hair undone, shirt half-buttoned. What happened? I should call Dr. Lang. Not yet, I said. He doesn't need a solution. He needs a person. Panic doesn't survive presence. That line has kept me alive. He hated it for a second, and then he didn't. I hummed the one-note song my mother used when sirens got close, a rope note kids can hold. Theo's right hand floated off his chest like a question and froze. I looked at Graham. He's asking for you, I said. And this man who'd been outsourcing tenderness to schedules went to his knees, put his hand under his son's. Theo gripped like a climber, and then he cried. Fix it crying, the kind that says. Finally the windows rattled. The room went quiet. And something bigger than the storm let go of its teeth. I stepped back and let a father do the work only a father can do. After he leaned against the hallway wall like the whole house had been sitting on him and had finally moved, I didn't know what to do. He whispered, You stayed, I said. That's the work. Morning came gray and soft. He took the envelope to his study, and when he came back, the letter was tucked in his shirt pocket, and his eyes looked like someone had opened a window and not shut it. He didn't have to tell me what it said. You can hear a person after they've been told the difference between perfection and presence. That afternoon, he sat at a glass table in the city and told people who measure life in quarters that he was stepping back. My sons need a father, not a CEO. Victor, the CFO, smirked. Is this about the help playing therapist? And Graham, without raising his voice, said, This is about me remembering the difference between profit and home. If you can't, you won't last here. He came back lighter and a little scared. It costs to tell the truth out loud, and it pays you back too. We turned Elena's old reading room into something that breathed. One shelf for her novels, the rest crayons and paper, and a small keyboard that made even wrong notes sound brave. We called it Elena's Nook, not a shrine, a beginning. Mrs. Whitcomb hovered with lemon oil judgment in her eyes. This is not how we did things with Mrs. Pierce, she said, and I smiled. And yet here we are. Bullies hate calm, and the meanest bully I ever met used to live in my own head, so I wasn't scared of hers. In the attic we found a kite yellow fabric with a crooked white star, and Elena's handwriting on the tail. For windy days, when courage feels small, we took it to the hill behind the house. First, run it face planted. Second, it wobbled. Third, it rose like it remembered us. Leo screamed the way joy sneaks up on a kid. Theo held the string like it might tug the fear out of him. Graham crouched between them and said something soft that looked like thank you. And I'm sorry, and I love you all at once. A few nights later, he slid an envelope across the island. Not a paycheck. A job I'd never seen on paper, child engagement lead, full-time at the bottom in his handwriting. This house is breathing again. Stay. If you feel called. Called, not hired. Yeah. That got me. I said yes. Not politely. With my whole chest. And the next week he handed me emergency authorizations and school contacts. In case I'm on a plane. And something happens, you do not ask permission. You decide. He looked at me, not like staff, like family. You trust to keep the light on. I wish I could say we lived in a montage of warm lamps and slow hugs. We didn't. Grief still jumped from corners like a prankster. But now it didn't win the room. Tools. Some nights we played Elena's tapes and shouted pizza on cue because you don't waste what works. Some mornings the boys drew me with superhero arms and Graham with a crooked crown. One afternoon, Theo climbed into my lap and asked, "Did God send you?" And I told him the truth. "I think he sent you to make me stop running." I used to teach kindergarten in Cedar Falls, but after my little brother Micah died in a fire, I couldn't protect him from. I left classrooms for kitchens, because you can scrub a sink until it shines. You can't make death reasonable control, told me numb was safer than honest. Turns out numb is just a slow way to lose people. The victory wasn't one roar. It was 1,000 small yeses, yes to pancakes without permission, yes to a song in thunder, yes to opening a letter when silence feels safer, yes to a cheap-looking kite that flew like a promise, and the ending isn't really an ending. But here's the picture I keep for the days. I doubt late afternoon on the hill, kite humming Yeo, holding the string, Theo holding my hand, Graham on my other side. Our shoulders keep finding each other, and we pretend not to notice the boys laughing. The sky doing that trick, where it seems wider than yesterday. He asks, "Do you regret not going back to teaching?" And I tell him no, I just changed classrooms. And he nods, asks, "What about me?" And I say, "You stopped hiring walls." He laughs, and it fits him now. And the wind pulls the kite higher like joy wants the last word. Now the part that starts an argument in the comments. And I mean it sincerely. Did I cross a line when I stayed after being fired? Because a child put a drawing in my hand, and my gut said, "Stay." Was Graham wrong to make me emergency family, when 5 minutes before I was the help? If you find a dead wife's box, do you bring it to her husband, or leave the past? Where it keeps winning is presence an answer, or a boundary. You shouldn't break. Tell me where you're watching from, and what you think was. I right to stay, or should a line be a line? Is he a hero for stepping back, or just doing what fathers ought to do? Have you seen a house like his, perfect and quiet, until someone breathes, drop? Take your story, your disagreement, keep it honest, keep it human. That's how the rest of us learn.